Hey, X100T, I've had you for 5.5 years, and we've had a lot of good times together, haven't we? But you know what? I found somebody new, an X100V. Got a flipper screen, got a better processor and a better lens, and you're just getting kind of old and worn out, so I got to get me a new one. I just bought one of these. This is a Fujifilm X100V. And I still have my old X100T. I gotta send this off today to the shop so I can get my trade-in for it. So for the last few days, I've been out shooting with both cameras so I can give you an opinion about my first impressions of this camera compared to this. I've had this for about 5.5 years, and it's one of my favorite cameras ever. Hi, I'm Paul Crouse. I'm a professional photographer based here in Kyoto, Japan. Let's get to it. Let me summarize my first impressions of using this X100V camera compared to the X100T. I really like the form factor of these cameras. It's a single lens. It's a compact camera, but it's not too small. It's got knobs. It's got a great sensor. I really like this, but really this is like upgrading an iMac, you know. This is sort of like a 24-inch from several years ago, and the processor is getting old and it's getting slow, and this is the newest whatever 24-inch with the 5K screen or whatever the current thing is in iMacs now. I don't even know. I don't pay attention until I need to get a new one, and I just get the current one. That's what this is like, okay? And a newer Mac is zippier. It's got a better screen, but it still basically does the same thing. I just need to do my work, okay? That's what this is like. Generally speaking, they're pretty much the same form factor. They're just small differences. The biggest difference in the X100V is the flippy screen. This is probably my favorite parts of this. It's very useful. I actually oftentimes shoot like this with my thumb, shoot down. I'm a pretty tall guy, so I like getting down lower. That really works well for me. The screen is much nicer. The internal screen is too, and this diopter actually works a lot better for me. Other parts about this, being able to change the ISOs right here was quite easily. This is like old film cameras. They've moved the buttons on the X100T. The buttons were all on the side, and then they had the D-pad. They've taken that off. There's fewer buttons. Having this little knobby here for doing the focus is good. It's useful for me for moving the focus point because I use single focus point a lot. Here I have to move it around like this, which is okay. It's neither here nor there. Basically the whole setup's the same. Everything just seems a little bit tighter, a little bit more well put together. I need a grip for this because I'm a pretty big guy and I need something to grab onto. I also have a filter on here and a hood. Another big difference is the battery. This has this little small battery with not a whole lot of capacity in it. This has a newer battery, the same ones I have on my XT2, so it's good I'll be able to swap out the batteries. This is S version, NPW126S. The previous version didn't have an S. When I put one of those in here, it says, use the S version, because the other one drains quicker. So I just want to point this out to you. I bought these cheap batteries, third-party batteries on Amazon, and they were okay for, they were just a little less capacity. But the problem was, like, this one swelled. I had another one that did it too, that swelled up, and I got stuck in the camera, and I had a real hard time taking them out. So be careful of these third-party batteries. I bought some Fujifilm ones for this new camera because it's an expensive camera. I don't want to chintz out on something that, if you have a bad battery, can really screw up the thing. Otherwise, the controls of it are all, it just seems a little bit more solid, this camera, but it's basically the same. Let's talk about the performance of the X100V. The autofocus is definitely better than the older camera, although it's not quite as good as my Sony ZV-1, which is the camera I use for making these videos. The autofocus on that camera is truly amazing. The V is definitely a zippier camera overall. It's got a new processor. It's really easy to shoot frames. It turns on fast. The buffer is really deep. But the downside is that it does drain batteries. So you're going to need at least 1 or 2 extra batteries for a full day of shooting. And there are many more controls in the menus, which makes this a much more complicated camera than the X100T. It's going to take me some time to go through all those and learn how the camera really works well. And now let's talk about image quality. I went into much more detail about this in a previous video, and you can see the link above. Generally speaking, the pictures from both cameras are going to pretty much look the same in most cases. Now the V has a lot more resolution at 26 megapixels compared to 16 megapixels, and the newer camera's exposure numbers were actually a little bit more accurate. Colors were tweaked a little bit in the Provia film simulation, which I tested. I personally like the color in the older camera, but it's not that the colors in the new camera are bad, they were just different. Now the lens in the new camera is definitely better. The old lens was not sharp up close at f2, as you can see in these pictures, although that problem clears up when you stop down to f4. Also, the older lens had a problem with flaring in certain circumstances. I actually thought that was the worst aspect of the old lens. File sizes. You have compressed RAW files here, almost the same size as this. They're about between 24 and 36 megabyte file sizes compressed RAW, and these were like 33 megabytes uncompressed RAW. The JPEG sizes were definitely smaller, but it's to be expected because this is a 26 megapixel sensor and this is a 16 megapixel sensor, so you get more resolution. A big thing for me is that the V is fully supported by Capture One using all the film simulations. The T, which is the same generation as an X100T, is not fully supported by Capture One. You can't use the Fujifilm film simulations in Capture One with the RAW files, and there's a workaround for it that's clunky, and I'll make a video down the road showing how to do that, but that's a big deal for me because I want to fully commit to using Capture One. Otherwise, I mean, this is a great camera. The X100T, I've had this for 5.5 years. This is like one of my favorite cameras of all time. I really love the style of this. It's got a great lens. The JPEG files out of here are excellent. I love the colors out of here. The biggest difference with this is like it's a car with an undersized engine. Like, you know, the car gets you where you want to go. You know, it's just not as zippy. Like, this has got a better engine in it. Now, should you buy one of these? Well, of course, that depends upon you. But I mean, if you got the money and you really like this style of camera, you know, get the most up-to-date or the next one down, an F. I was looking at that, used F, but they're actually kind of hard to find right now. This has got video stuff on it. I'm starting to shoot video now, as you can see, so having video capability, including a mic jack on it and stuff like that, is actually quite important. I want that with all my cameras now. The video doesn't do much. So if you can find one of these used, I mean, if you're like doing street photography or just want to travel photography, this could be a pretty good beater camera. If you can find a good one used from a reputable dealer that is a good price, this can be a good camera, okay? And also another beater camera that would be similar to this, and it might be cheaper, would be to get an XT1 with a 23mm f2 lens. That's the same sensor, a little bit bigger, but that would do the same thing. Again, if you just want to take pictures and don't want to worry about trashing your camera like you're doing street photography or something, that's another possible option. Yeah, this is my first impression of this. I'm really happy to have this camera, and I'm going to go out and take a lot more pictures with it and make some more videos on my experience with it. So now I got to pack up the camera and send it off before the delivery guy comes. Bye-bye, camera. We've had a lot of good times together, haven't we? So if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments below. It's really helpful for me if you have any video ideas. Also, please click like or subscribe if you found this helpful. That really does help me with this channel. All right. So thank you very much for listening. Hope everything's well with you, and talk to you soon. Bye.